Good morning and welcome to a special edition of the Last Night's Game podcast. Typically, we're a Wednesday Wisdom where we come to you on a Wednesday, but it is Super Bowl week, and we wanted you to have as much time as possible to get comfortable with all things Super Bowl so you can join the conversation this whole week, whether that's at the office or this week at a Super Bowl party or at a networking event. So here to talk the Super Bowl is our MVP, my favorite co-founder, my favorite brother, and my favorite co-host, Scott. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. As we say here at Last Night's Game, every day is the Super Bowl. Every day is a big day, but finally we actually get to talk about the Super Bowl. And it gives you an incredible opportunity to talk about football with just a unique grouping of people at a Super Bowl party, football fanatics, fantasy football fanatics, people who don't know anything about football, who just want to watch commercials. So we're going to give you a little bit of everything to make sure that there's no super awkward conversations.
I personally love the Super Bowl because you don't have to know anything about the game to be able to join a sports conversation. Because personally, I like to watch a Super Bowl for the commercials. I don't like to go to Super Bowl parties because I don't want someone to interrupt my whole experience of hearing the Super Bowl commercials. I want to watch the halftime show. I pay attention to the game, of course, but I really want to see all of it wrapped together because I think on a Monday morning, when you wrap this up with a bow and what happens in the Super Bowl, it's such a fun way to talk about the world of sports, but not talk about sports exactly, which is kind of what we love here at Last Night's Game. This is our Super Bowl. So let's start off with a question that everyone's thinking about. At least I'm thinking about it. I know others are too, because I've seen it all around, is the Chiefs are going for their back-to-back-to-back Super Bowl. So 3 Super Bowl wins in a row, which has never been done before. And if that happens, is Travis Kelce retiring?
I think that's such a widely talked about question because he has become so prevalent outside football with podcasting and hosting and being on other shows. So I think if you win 3 Super Bowls in a row, set history, you have to ride off into the sunset if that's where you're if you're starting to think about retirement, then it's probably time to go. And setting history and riding off the sunset with Taylor Swift sounds like a pretty good way to go off.
Not so bad. I mean, he's 35 years old. He has a lot of other things in the hopper. It's not like we haven't seen him and every other Kelce everywhere. Is America suffering Kelce fatigue?
It's interesting to hear people talk about that as well. I mean, if you live in Philadelphia, Kansas City, or maybe Cleveland, where they're from, I would say probably not. But maybe if you're from cities like where we are that don't support them and haven't idolized them and they're legends for winning Super Bowls, I'd say probably a little bit. It's basically, they're everywhere. Every commercial, podcasts, late night TV shows now. So,
yeah.
If you would have asked Jason during maybe like halfway through his career if he thought he'd ever be in media, I assume the answer would be absolutely not. So,
well, yeah, it's really interesting because we have this conversation on our team calls quite often and with our interns, and you know, we're all like, we're Taylor Swift fans, so I love it. But it's one of those where I think even they're saying like, hey, we're kind of over it too. So I'm just so intrigued. I mean, we're definitely going to see the Kelce family on the Super Bowl. We've made a bingo card with the station that I do a lot of TV work with, family friendly bingo card, which we'll post in the notes when that's all up and running. But one of them is a shirtless Jason Kelce. Speaking of shirts, I guess Jason Kelce's played for the Eagles. His wife is a diehard Eagles fan, refuses to wear anything besides Eagles colors. They're putting their kids in shirts that say, "Go Uncle Trav." That way they're not picking sides, which I thought was kind of cute.
Are they green Uncle Trav shirts or are they Chiefs red Uncle Trav shirts?
I have not heard. Maybe they're just blue.
A neutral color, perhaps.
Perhaps black, blue, something like that.
Yeah. And we'll see what Kylie wears because, as you said, she refuses to wear anything other than Eagles green. So
something tells me you're not telling Kylie to wear red, even if you begged and pleaded, because that woman she is as stubborn as I am, and I'm here for it.
I'm certainly not going to be the one to tell her. So somebody else can do that.
No, not in the least bit. Okay, so we've gone from obviously the Kelces and Taylor Swift. Let's take that jump over to music of the Super Bowl. We have some great music ahead. Obviously, the halftime show features Kendrick Lamar. They've announced that SZA will also be there. I have a did you know to lead us into this. Did you know that Kendrick Lamar, who's won 17 Grammy Awards, is one of the most nominated artists in Grammy history and the second most nominated rapper of all time, behind Jay-Z, who also happens to be behind the booking of the Super Bowl? halftime shows.
That's a great did you know. I did not know that. I believe it, though. Kendrick Lamar is obviously one of the most popular artists we have. Fun fact, I think I've seen him live more than anyone else. So
Really?
I certainly believe that. And then the connection to Jay-Z. So it's full circle.
That is full circle. I did not know that. That's really cool. But we get it.
It's,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you live in Las Vegas. There's a lot of opportunities to see either concerts or performing at nightclubs and things like that. So, yeah.
That's true. Do you think we'll see any other special guests or special performances?
Given how big that platform is, I'm sure that we're going to see other people pop up in some point of the performance. They have so many collaborations with people, with other artists. So I assume somebody else is going to get to share the spotlight.
What's really interesting, and we've talked about this every year on the Super Bowl, but I still find it just the most interesting fact is none of these performers, the halftime performers or the musicians we'll talk about next who are doing the anthem and whatnot, are paid. So the NFL pays the production cost, but they are not paid because they are on the world's largest stage at this point.
And they don't get paid directly, but as you know, after performances, their streaming numbers will skyrocket, their YouTube video views will skyrocket. So they're paid in a different way. Even though streaming, they might make like 12 cents off it, but
right,
they'll get paid in other ways, yes.
Well, maybe what we'll find too is, you have a lot of people who are a little bit older who are like, who is this Kendrick Lamar? Why is he coming in and playing the Super Bowl? I don't like his music. They probably, A, don't know his music. B, maybe he'll win them over because I think he's super talented. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any appreciation. I mean, I listened to my father-in-law who's in his 70s talk about some of these halftime performers, and I won't give you his feedback on J-Lo's, but it had something to do with an adult nightclub.
Yes.
And so it's really intriguing of hopefully they get something out of it and they learn something, they see something new, and they continues to help them be relevant. But we're talking about musicians, right? So Louisiana, they did a really great job. The Super Bowl's in New Orleans. They did a great job this year of picking musicians who have ties. They're Louisiana kids to sing some of the other performances. So we have John Baptiste doing the national anthem. Lauren Daigle and jazz musician Trombone Shorty will perform America the Beautiful, and R&B legend Ledisi will perform Lift Every Voice and Sing. So very cool that they've kind of tapped into that market and really honed in on New Orleans and Louisiana culture.
You took the words out of my mouth, the culture in Louisiana with music and celebrations. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for these artists. What do you think? I know the over-under on the anthem is always a big deal. What are your predictions there?
Well, I think John Baptiste, he has a very theatrical performance. He tends to be theatrical. So I'm going to go with the over on the anthem. What about you?
Yeah, I have to agree. It's going to be, I think he says he wants to make it something along the lines of memorable. So yeah, we're going to go over. Made into the waters of the longest ever.
It's possible. Who do you know who is the longest ever?
I want to say Kelly Clarkson because she drew out a lot of the words. Is that correct?
But not far off. Same generation. Alicia Keys, longest ever national anthem. How about the shortest?
This is the one I actually do know because it's so bizarre. It's Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond, yes.
And I think he just like sped through the lyrics just to get up to the suite to watch the game would be my guess.
He had babies to kiss and hands to shake. He had stuff to do. Let's move on. This is Neil Diamond. He's making money. Let's make this happen.
It's just a tiny performance at the Super Bowl. There's other stuff going on.
He has to sing Sweet Caroline somewhere.
Yes.
Well, so New Orleans is no stranger, though, to hosting the Super Bowl. In fact, they've done it, 11 times?
Yes, 11 times, which is the most out of any city that has ever hosted the Super Bowl. Not all have been at the stadium where the Saints play, which is now named Mercedes-Benz Superdome. It's only hosted a majority of those, so they know how to put on a Super Bowl, although last time it was there in 2013, it wasn't necessarily the greatest experience, and I think that's why they haven't hosted until now, maybe to get their infrastructure up and get their power grids ready to go.
No, first I want to correct you. I think it was Mercedes-Benz Superdome when it was in 2013. It's now the Caesars Superdome.
Oh, how about that?
But what happened in 2013 that caused this whole lull in infrastructure rebuilding?
Well, obviously, Beyonce was the halftime performer, and she put on a show.
She did.
It was very electric. Got all the power to her show, and after halftime, shortly after the game resumed, the power went out between the Ravens and the Niners, which was the Harbaugh Bowl. The brothers faced each other. And there was about a half-hour delay in the game as the power went out, and they had to restart everything, even like the broadcast, the lights, everything to get play resumed. And it killed the momentum for one of those teams in that game.
That's crazy. It was a great halftime, but that's crazy that I forgot about the low lights going out situation. Well, it sounds like to me like this is a perfect excuse to stay home and eat all my snacks and watch football and use my own bathroom and drink my own cocktails.
That sounds nice. A lot better than paying $10,000 for a ticket to the game and maybe have the lights go out.
Well, I'll be intrigued because how the ticket prices roll out. We're hearing for the event we're doing there on Friday, we're hearing that things are kind of a little slower in New Orleans than they were in Vegas last year, and they have been in previous years. So we'll be intrigued to see what an average ticket price is when we get closer to game time. But speaking of food and all the things, we have the Kansas City Chiefs and we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Both cities that are known for great opportunities for food. Our parents are from outside of Philadelphia, so we are akin to some of the food. Obviously, Kansas City has barbecue. Philadelphia, we have cheesesteaks. But the less obvious choice that we talked about before we met up here was scrapple and pork roll. And if you are from that area, you know exactly what we're talking about. The two breakfast foods that we don't talk about what's in them, but they're really good. You don't eat them anymore, but I do.
Now, do not Google what's in these delicious breakfast items, as some of the ingredients may not be something you want to eat. But as locals in Philadelphia, I'm sure that they will have their scrapple ready to rock on Super Bowl Sunday.
Well, and you also know that after Thanksgiving, Super Bowl Sunday is the biggest food consumption, calorie consumption day. Like 11,000 calories a day on Super Bowl Sunday, which is mind-boggling when you're looking at, like, my calorie intake is somewhere around like 1,700 calories a day. So that's a lot. It's a lot of extra nachos.
I mean, that's what's more American than Thanksgiving and Super Bowl Sunday being just glutton fest.
This is a true statement.
And I was told that calories do not count on Thanksgiving and Super Bowl. So I don't.
Because you know what? They don't.
If you want to, eat, what is it, like 120 million pounds of snacks or 1.45 billion chicken wings, why not?
Most consumed food, obviously chicken wings, 1.3 billion chicken wings. It also happens to be National Pizza Day. That was not always timed that way. So 2 million pizzas are served on Super Bowl Sunday. 200 million pounds of avocados from Mexico, 88 million pounds of cheese. So hence why we hit the 11,000 calories.
That'll get you there for sure. National Pizza Day, we have to get pizza now, I think.
Yeah, I think it's now a requirement. If you're not ordering it, you're making it. Okay. It's just how that has to go. Get your supplies now.
Get it. And the avocados, I'm sure they'll have it. Somebody's got to pay for those commercials. So
that's true. That's true.
Get those things going.
Okay, one of the items on your food buffet, if you're an Eagles fan, maybe a birthday cake this year. Talk to me about the birthday cake.
Not only is it Super Bowl Sunday, it's also two very big days for some Eagles players. Superstar Saquon Barkley is celebrating his birthday, and then rookie Cooper DeJean is also celebrating his birthday. So there could be a lot of celebrations on the Eagles team and in Philadelphia, perhaps for some birthdays and a Super Bowl trophy.
Now talk to people. You talked about Saquon Barkley. Tell everybody a little bit about Saquon Barkley. He has had a phenomenal season. He came over from the Giants. He has the best handshakes pregame with his kids. Talk to me about Saquon Barkley.
I think he's done a good job of becoming relevant with, maybe not the football crowd. Like you said, he's got this handshake with his daughter. He does pregame, which maybe make him more of a star than what he's done on the field. If you know someone like yourself who doesn't follow as closely is talking about it. But on the field, he was with the Giants for a long time. They couldn't re-sign him. There's a famous clip, Giants owner, they were on a Hard Knocks version, and they're filming in the off season when they're talking about re-signing him. The Giants owner says, "I won't be able to sleep if we don't re-sign Saquon." So
he's not
there's
sleeping.
been a lot of jokes on the internet that John Mayer has not slept for a very long time.
And he's not now either.
He's not now. So yeah, he's He became the 9th running back in history to hit 2,000 yards, which is, pretty remarkable to do. And then in the playoffs, he's cemented his legacy already as an Eagles legend. He's tied the record, I think, with 60+ yard touchdowns already. So he's well on his way, and he's kind of the X factor for the Eagles that they were maybe missing last Super Bowl against the Chiefs.
Yeah. Now, these two teams played back in, blanking on the year. Wow,
The 2022, I think it was 2 years ago, right?
2023.
Whatever year we are.
Yeah, 2023, they matched up. The Chiefs took home the win. There's a tie between the Chiefs and the Eagles when it comes to their coaches. Can you kind of give us a little bit about Nick Sirianni and Andy Reid?
Yeah, I think the coaches, these two in particular, are quite the storyline, given their personality differences and where they came from. Obviously, come full circle with Andy Reid. He was the Eagles coach for a long time, was never able to win the Super Bowl. They parted ways. He went to the Chiefs and had all the success. And when he went to the Chiefs, Nick Sirianni was on the staff, and he did not retain him to be on his staff, which I'm sure Nick Sirianni is an emotional guy, and I'm sure he's using that as a chip on his shoulder. And then he went on become Eagles coach. So there's a full circle there of coaching tree with the Eagles and Chiefs.
But they seem to be cordial, as best as I can tell.
Yeah, I don't think there's any bad blood, but I'm sure Nick uses that when he wakes up in the morning as a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, the NFL players are not paid to play in the postseason. They get bonuses as they go along and win different games. Winning team will make $171,000 per player. Losing team consolation check about $96,000. If the Chiefs win, they obviously take home this additional $171,000. Talk to me a little bit about the Chiefs team. I mean, we obviously know Patrick Mahomes, we know Travis Kelce, but give us just a little nuggets of what we should know about this team.
Can I circle back on something real quick?
Yes.
Like the amount of money that some of these guys make, they're probably going to lose money with family and friends coming into town and paying for tickets. And if you're trying to pay for a suite, you're probably losing money on this game, but
100%.
It doesn't matter. So if you lose, it's pretty rough. But if you win, at least, you recoup some of those funds, but then you get a Super Bowl trophy as well. So
I think the suite Taylor Swift got last year for the Super Bowl, if I remember, was a couple $1 million. Like, it was not, and it was a big suite, don't get me wrong, but it was not cheap. You were not making money off that.
I think Christian McCaffrey and his family wanted to get us through with Olivia Culpo or something. It was like $5 million. So I don't think they ended up getting it, but
it's Vegas.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy money.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. Chiefs team.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Went on a tangent there. And the Chiefs team, they're in their championship era at this moment. When they beat the Eagles, basically they have their same core that they've been able to keep together since that Super Bowl. With, obviously, we talk about Andy Reid as at the helm. He's the genius. Patrick Mahomes is probably the best quarterback we're ever going to see. He just wins. There's really no way to go around that. And then obviously Travis Kelce. And then kind of the unsung hero on defense is Chris Jones. He's a defensive lineman, and you'll see, he's a game wrecker. And that core has kept them together and on the verge of a three-peat.
Yeah, and I saw somewhere that the Chiefs have elected to wear their white jerseys. Eagles are going to be in green. And teams who wore the white jerseys have won 16 of the last 20 Super Bowls. So about 64% of all Super Bowls. So white is winning, apparently.
And if I'm not mistaken, that this is the same color matchup as the last time they met in the Super Bowl. So
maybe they're
if you're going off odds, if you're going off odds, it would say that the Chiefs have the advantage at this point based on that.
So I have a question for you. This obviously last year's Super Bowl was the most watched TV event since Apollo 11 moon landing. More than 123 million people watched the Super Bowl. A, where are you going to watch it? B, should the Super Bowl be on a Saturday? Is this just terrible? We have a third of America, maybe a little bit more, watching the Super Bowl, and then they all have to get up and go to work the next day. Should they at least start it earlier if we're not going to make it a Saturday?
I mean, I said, I think we did the politics podcast, that a president should just run on moving the Super Bowl to Saturday, and they would win going away, most likely, just on that policy.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's really ridiculous that they haven't moved it to Saturday. There's 2 weeks in between the last game and the Super Bowl. Maybe they were worried that if it was Saturday, like, the United States would just implode because
It's possible.
no one would care that they didn't have to work the next day, and then it could get out of hand. Maybe that's
So.
the only reason they're doing that. But yeah, there's really no reason to not be on Saturday. And there was another question I think you asked me.
I'm just asking where you're going to watch it from.
It's up in the air at this moment. Like you, I'd rather watch at a home or someone's house rather than try to go to a bar or a club and watch it. I'd rather just be comfortable and join it on the most caloric day of the year. Just hang out.
Amen. Now, as we wrap up, is there anything you want to leave us with?
I think one of the best, most intriguing storylines of the Super Bowl is coming from the Eagles side. It's not a player. It's not a coach. It's Big Dom. And I was wondering if you knew who he was.
I know he's like their security guy.
So he's been Eagles folklore legend. He's been with the team since like 1999. When people say like I've got a guy,
He's the guy.
He does it all. He's Big Dom. He's got all the connections. He's keeping Nick Sirianni composed. He's taking care of security problems. When they had that issue with the fan that was being rude and cursing out that lady in the game during the season, he's the one that tracked down the guy, like found him and banned him
I don't
for
know anything
life.
about this story, but it sounds like Big Dom's the guy to put on it.
Yeah, don't get on Big Dom's bad side. He's got connections everywhere, and it's a funny storyline. He came to prominence. There was a scuffle on the sidelines of the 49ers Eagles game last season, and he got in between it and maybe got physical with one of the 49ers players, and that brought him to like the national spotlight.
When he got banned from like the sidelines or something like that from that, didn't he?
He did, and then the Eagles season went down the drain after that. So there's a lot of talk, the correlation that he's like holding this franchise together. And you'll see him when you see him, you'll know that that's Big Dom, and he knows how to get stuff done.
So keep an eye out for Big Dom, the guy from Philly. As everyone has a guy from Philly. That's just what you do, right? I feel like that's a Sopranos character.
He looks exactly like you think that he looks.
Yes, he does. That's exactly his statement.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your insights into Super Bowl 59 with us. If you didn't catch anything we talked about today, or you want more about anything we've talked about today, check out our Super Bowl guide on our website at lastnightsgame.com. We have everything you need to know there in partnership with our friends over at the Sebi podcast. We put that together for you so you have a little go-to reference point for your Super Bowl. Thanks, Scott, for being here with us. Everybody enjoy your Super Bowl week. Stay safe and happy Super Bowl Sunday.